In Search of a Walker. My series, my documentary introduction. I know it is not an unusual story for a dad to have left his family, but this is my experience. This is my story. I'm affected, and here we go. My dad lived with us until I was 8 years old. When I say us, I'm referring to mainly my mother, myself, and my sisters. My sisters are 2 years younger than me. I am Denise Loren Walker, as I was born. But now I'm Denise Coleman, and I go by Nisia. I was born to Dwight Lawrence Walker, and named after, for the initial's sake, and for the middle name, Loren Lawrence, and to Karen Redmond Walker, at the time, Karen Denise Redmond Walker, who is now Karen King. So when I say us, I'm referring to my mom, myself, and my sisters, Rachel and Jessica. Me and my sisters do have 2 older brothers. Each one of our parents had a son when they met and married and had us. But my dad lived with us until I was 8. When I was 8, he moved out. For the following year, he came and picked us up every Saturday like clockwork at 10 o'clock. He would take us out. We would do fun things. We lived in Richmond, Virginia at the time. He took us to a place called Carytown, where we would just go little charming shops and restaurants. I remember going down to the James River, playing in the water and being on the big rocks. I remember us going to Pizza Hut, just doing different stuff. My dad picked us up every day, Saturday, for a year. After that year was over, when I was 9, I remember him telling us that he was moving away. And I didn't see him again until I was 11. For 2 years, we didn't see him. I don't know if we even spoke on the phone. Then one day, he showed up at his mom's house, my grandmother, and spent the day with me and my sisters. Then he was gone again for another 2 years. And one day he showed up at his mom's house, my grandmother, and spent the day with me and my sisters. And then he was gone again. And I didn't see him again until I was 17. 4 years went by. I think during that period I might have spoken to him maybe once or something like that. So he was just gone. When I was 17, my grandmother's husband, my step-grandfather, who growing up to me, he was grandpa because I did not know my biological grandfather really at all. But when he passed, my father came to the funeral. And so I was 17 then. And from that point forward, he was a bit more available to us. You know, he didn't live in the same city with us, but he did take me and my sisters down to Atlanta where he was living at the time. I'm 17, they 15. We out. He took us out on the town. We out getting drunk. I don't know why we were being served alcohol, but my dad showed us the time of our lives, okay? He had a way about him that was just super fun, super charming, super funny. He just made you want to be around him. So I think not being around him was traumatizing for me. A few years after that, he was living in Chicago. When I was 21, he flew me and my 1-year-old son up there and took, just showed us a great time. And then later on in my early 20s, maybe when I was 24-ish, he actually moved from Chicago to Raleigh, to where my mom and my sisters lived. So when he moved to Raleigh, we already knew that he was not well. He was not the dad that I remembered growing up, really strong and sturdy. He was definitely a lot more thin and feeble. He was walking with a cane. He was not doing well. My dad was an alcoholic. My dad was diabetic, and he had other health issues too. When he came to Raleigh, he lived for a period of time with each one of my sisters, and they took care of him. I did not spend a lot of time with him during this time. And for whatever reason, that could be, our past. It could have been his attitude, because as charming and as fun as he could be, he would turn the tables on you quick, and he definitely had a mean streak. And he was a manipulator. Yeah. So anyway, in those last few years of his life, he did live here with us. I did get to have some hard conversations with him. Me and my sisters went off on him a couple times. We were just, you know, it was strained, but before it was over, we did get to say the things that needed to be said. And we were with him in his last moments. So that's wonderful. He died when I was 27. That was 15 years ago. In that time, from then to now, I realized just the way I would talk about him, that there was still wounds, there was still hurt there. Just talking about some of the things that he did to us. Like, why did he leave? Why did he do the things that he did to us? And so my father's immediate family, he had dad and mom, they were married while he was growing up. Also 2 siblings, an older brother and an older sister. Aunt Dee Dee, his older sister, has since passed. Both of his parents also have passed. My grandmother died 2 years ago. So his last remaining immediate family member is my Uncle Richard. And my grandmother's funeral 2 years ago now. Uncle Richard, when he spoke, he was just kind, and Uncle Richard has been kind. And I wanted to stay in contact with him. So I did. Every now and then I would just call and check in and say, hey, I just wanted to talk to you. And he's just been loving and accepting of me. And I just cling to that so hard, even though I feel like, man, I hope I'm not like being weird or out of line, because my experience with the Walker male, the adult Walker male, has not been great. There's been anger, there's been abandonment. I've wanted to know, here's the driving factor. I wanted to know, why was my dad the way he was? What made him leave us? What made him do the things that he did to us? During that year, between me being 8 and 9 before he moved away, one of the days he picked us up, he taught me and my sisters how to use profanity, said we could cuss if we want. That was weird. One of the days that he picked us up before he moved all the way away, he cut all of our beautiful natural hair off. Our hair was like down here, healthy and strong. He cut it down to this. No explanation. Cut our hair off. We got clowned so hard at school. He didn't even take us to get it shaped up or anything, just jacked up looking afros and sent us back to our mom. I like to think he was doing it to get back at my mom for whatever reason, but he used us. He did that to us. That was messed up. Like, why did he do that? My dad also was a Vietnam vet. He was in Vietnam. I think he was like 17 or 18 when he went. And my father was an excellent storyteller. And from the stories that he's told, I could tell that it was traumatizing being out there. So I just tried to blame it on that. But I just wanted to know, like, why was he like that? I'll never know. But what I wanted to do, because Uncle Richard is the last person that I could speak to that grew up in the house with my dad, maybe he could tell me some clue that would say, oh, well, maybe that's why my dad was that way. Maybe that's why he was that way. Let me also say that after my grandmother's funeral, my cousin Richie, Uncle Richard's son, was letting us know, he was getting our information because he compiles our family tree, our family history, the Walker family. I didn't know that my grandfather, my dad's dad, was one of 11 children. I had no idea. So he has shared the family tree on ancestry.com with me. So I've stayed in contact with him too, because I want to know more about that. Staying in contact with Uncle Richard and Richie has been wonderful. And I told them, like, look, like, I know in my heart, like, being accepted and feeling that love and acceptance and kindness is something that I don't take for granted. So I was like, I want more of this. Like, look, I'm coming to see y'all. They both live in Houston. And I was like, I want to come see y'all. They were like, come on. They both were like, you could stay at my house. I stayed with Richie and his family. But he lives just a few minutes from Uncle Richard. So I went, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what their homes would be like. I didn't know what my reception would be like. I know that my dad was, pretty sometimey as far as his mood's concerned. So I didn't know if that's what I would get from Uncle Richard or Richie, but I stayed at Richie's house. I don't know if I've ever felt so welcomed. Uncle Richard being available to me, he doesn't owe me anything. But he's made himself available to me. And it's just, this has started something. He let me ask my questions. And what I realized since then is that I'm not going to find out what I initially was thinking I might find out. I'm not going to get that's why my dad did that. I ain't going to get it. What I'm getting is so much more. So much more. I'm getting my family. What I am getting is my family. I'm getting my family. Family that I didn't know before. Family now that I am brave enough to say, hey, I want to get to know you. And this very strong desire to know more of my family, to continue to build a relationship I have with my uncle and my cousin in Houston, but to get to know more. There's a lot of us. I mean, we're talking about my grandfather was one of 11 children. How many cousins do I have? So I'm starting with the ones I know. I've been reaching out. I've spoken to Carmen. I've spoken to Simeon. I got plans to meet with both of them. I've got interviews lined up, meetings lined up, cousins lined up. And I just want to keep this going. I do want to ask questions about the memories that they have about my dad. I do. Instead, what this is going to be is I'm getting family. And that's what I want. I realize I love y'all so much. I love my family so much. And I didn't even know. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew that I loved y'all, but I didn't know it was like what I'm experiencing now. So I want to compile this. I'm going to turn this into a series, a documentary of what I've been going through. I want to chronicle in chronological order for the most part, because there's still healing that needs to take place in me regarding my dad, because that was the reason I started this. But I'm okay, because I know I'm not going to get exactly what I was looking for, but I'm getting so much more. It's like if I really, really, really wanted a shiny new quarter and I couldn't find one anywhere, but instead somebody gives me $1 million worth of dimes and nickels and dollars. You know what I mean? I didn't get the quarter, but I'm getting so much more than I could ever expect. And the Most High is just so wonderful, because I didn't expect this to be the journey that I was embarking on, but I'm going to go and I'm going to see what he does. So family, if you're watching this, reach out to me. I will do what I can to get with you, to talk with you, because not only if you have memories of my dad, great. If you don't, great. I want to get to know you. And what I want to do is chronicle our family so that our family can get to know one another. And what I would love to turn this into is a living, talking photo album, a living, talking family tree of not just the Walkers, but the family related to the Walkers, the family married into the Walkers, the family once removed from the Walkers. Like, I want our family, our children, our grandchildren to know who we were and to know who they were. Because eventually everybody's going to become just their photos, just the videos of them, just the memories, just the things they wrote down. So I want to capture what I can capture of us, because we're beautiful. And I hope this helps someone else. Even if you don't get exactly what you thought you might need, there's healing for you to have. There's healing to be had. Just trust the Most High, trust the process, and go a day at a time. So here we go. In search of a walker. I thought the walker that I was looking for was my dad, but it turns out it's actually me. Next up, chapter 1.